first speaker, Chow Ma. Chow joined Munro Partners in 2023 and has been working in New York and Melbourne around global equities for more than 15 years. Chow cut her teeth working at hedge funds in New York, where she also completed her Harvard MBA. Investors have doubled their money in the Munro Small and Mid-Cap Fund launched when Chow joined the Munro team just 2 years ago, and that's without any valuation tailwind to speak of. Ladies and gentlemen, Chow Ma.
Thanks, Ben, and good afternoon to all. Thank you so much for spending time with us and in this fantastic venue. I think the topic of this panel is inefficient market. And I'm here to make the case that the small and mid-cap equities, especially on the global growth side, is one of the most inefficiently and most mispriced asset there is. This is actually a really compelling case, but also a really simple one. I can actually sum up my entire presentation in 4 words for you. And then when I do see you in the breakout, I'm going to quiz you for the 4 words. So please, this is it. The first one is a simple one: cheap. And you're going to hear a lot of presentations today on small and mid-cap being cheap, and cheap they are. If you just look at the small and mid-cap on the global basis as a market, as an index, comparing to the large cap index, and there are many ways of cutting the index, but no matter what you do, the conclusion is roughly the same, which is the valuation gap between the small and mid-cap stocks relative to the large cap stocks is the biggest in 20 years. So not since the dot-com bubble did the smaller end of the market got this cheap. So that's the first word, cheap. But frankly, cheap itself is not actually worthy of investment because, when is the gap going to close? Well, the second word I'm going to talk about is acceleration. The earnings acceleration, especially on the growth side, is, in our opinion, going to force that valuation gap to close. And the acceleration is actually, doesn't come easy. We love talking about smaller companies growing fast. But if you actually look at what happened to most large industries, your scale is an advantage, which means if you're small, it's actually a disadvantage. So it's absolutely not for granted that smaller companies should grow faster. So when do they grow faster? Well, we're global growth investors. We think about these massive, decade-long structural changes in the world, and we'll put them in the S-curve. When you're on the first half of the S-curve, your growth is the fastest. What do I mean by that? I mean when something's structurally changing in the industry. So a really famous example is when all of us globally ditch cash and start to use credit cards, start to use online payments. A really, really small bank card company based out in California grew up to be Visa that we know today. When you look at the modern times, when things are changing, when NVIDIA is making chips bigger, not smaller, when the modern warfare is not about missiles and tanks anymore, it's all about drones. When fiber optic companies now serve more to connect data centers than to actually bring our homes online with Telstra. When all these things really change, that is the opening for the small companies to enter this part of the S-curve, to grow at a fast speed, to really enter that acceleration part. And frankly, that is the most exciting part of the earnings growth. I have 4 companies here, and we can actually find about 30 to 40 of these charts. And you could see the earnings have already accelerated across these different industries in 2024 into 2025. And this is before the interest rate actually fell. This is before there's any economic recovery. This is before any mergers and acquisitions come back into the small cap space. And this is before any industry deregulation. So if you do believe some or all of those things are going to come, we actually think the structural growth acceleration is going to continue and possibly get even stronger. So that's the second word, acceleration. The third word is diverse. So we talk a lot about US tech and large cap and this and that, but the really simple fact is you don't have to own Magnificent 7 to find growth. We actually identify 7 to 8 of these really broad structural tailwinds, what we call areas of interest, in which the smaller companies are clearly accelerating in earnings. And most of these are not even in technology. We found a small defense electronics company called Curtiss-Wright. and it has a really hidden commercial nuclear portfolio that's highly profitable. It used to grow earnings single digit, now is solidly growing 20+%. We found a specialty Texas-based contractor in Comfort Systems that's actually in infrastructure. And it did, again, used to be really single-digit grower, now solidly growing double digits. We found Galderma, which is a Switzerland-based global leader in Botox and fillers. Hello, ladies. And this company is a recent IPO, growing at an accelerating pace, not in the US, not in tech. So we can go on, but the diversity of earnings growth has really got us excited about the global small cap space. So that's the third word, diversity. The fourth word is just unloved. And frankly, when we come across these smaller companies, we just cannot believe that the market or the Wall Street brokers just stubbornly refuse to look at these companies. So these are the companies we organize them by structural tailwinds. And the large caps on top, we love these companies. They're existing holdings in the Munro Global Growth Fund. We absolutely love these large cap companies. And then the logos on the bottom is the small mid-cap companies in the exact same growth tailwind. And they are growing so fast. And some of these companies, like Astera Labs, is growing at 150% profitably. Or you have Reddit that's growing 60% and actually growing faster, again, profitably. And we just cannot believe there is just no analyst coverage on these companies. On average, the logos on top has about 35 to 40 analysts. That means every time Microsoft, Facebook report earnings, within about 24 hours, you will get 40 notes from analysts analyzing every comma of what happened in that press release. And when Reddit or Astera Labs or Curtis Wright report earnings, if you are lucky, you might get 2 notes that hit your inbox in the next week. And this is really sort of go back to the cheap. We think that's why they're cheap, but we do think the earnings growth, especially acceleration in earnings growth, will just force the market to look at some of these companies. And since this is such a simple thesis, and there's only 4 words, I'm going to give you something really fun. We're going to go through 2 stocks just to illustrate, give you a little bit of flavor of why we're excited about some of these companies. The first company is called Axon. And Axon was started roughly 20 years ago by its founder, who tragically lost 2 of his high school friends in a police shooting. So he dedicated 20 years building up Axon to sell tasers to the local and state police forces in the US. Since if you use taser, you don't have to put out your gun. Over the years, Axon built up a whole slew of network products. So it first started out with a body camera. The minute you pulled out your taser and deployed, the body camera turns on, really recording all this video evidence from all kinds of angles, and then upload it to the cloud. It recently come up with a drone product. So when you call 911, no longer is a police patrol going to show up in the cities that is testing. A drone is actually the first thing that showed up, operated by a police officer on the other side. It also puts in real-time translation in the body camera. So when you're doing border patrol as a police officer, no matter who you're speaking to, you can just talk in English and your body camera can translate back and forth. So this is just a whole network effect of really cool products in the domestic crime prevention space. And then AI happened, and Axon worked out. You know what I can do? I can upload all the videos, all the data I have already captured from police patrols over the years, and then upload it to a large language model, and then start to putting out first draft of the police report, start to prepare legal cases when the police really need to bring any of these criminals to case. So this really turned, within 5 quarters, a primarily hardware business, making all this cool hardware, to a majority software business. And now it's a subscription software business with the earnings now accelerating to more than 40% year on year relative to historical average of 20%. And the second case is actually really near and dear to my heart, and this is a company called Insulet. So diabetes is one of the most commonly diseases that really plague humanity. Hundreds of millions of people are suffering from diabetes, and some of you might have people in your friends and family that have to do multiple daily deliveries of insulin, and it's very painful, really inconvenient. And Insulet come up with a pot that contains insulin that's worth about 2 to 3 days. You put it on your arm, it connects to a constant glucose monitor, and all of a sudden you can live your life. All you need to do is input the meals that you're about to eat, and it basically automatically dispenses the insulin that you need at the perfect amount. So it is a safer product. It really improves the life quality. This used to be just a product for the type 1 diabetic patients. These are the patients that were born with diabetes, roughly 2 million patients in the US only. It just got approved to address the type 2 diabetes patients, and the approval is actually rolling through the international market. So a really simple way of thinking about this is used to address the 2 million patient population, now has expanded to more than 15 million patient population, 7x, and this is a market leader in every market it goes, and frankly, I can't wait for it to come to Australia. This is a $20 billion market, really solving one of the most important and pressing issues within innovative healthcare. So I hope that really gives you a little bit of flavor of what we're going after. We're really excited about this for the 4 words: cheap, unloved, diverse, and then most importantly, earnings acceleration. Thank you so much for your attention, and I'll come back for questions.
Thank you, Chow.